What it do?
This is Crime in the Coconut. It should be the second Sunday of June. We were on a little hiatus for a bit.
I lied. It's first Sunday of June. But whatever, that works. It's the first Sunday of June.
Mine would be the first Sunday of June?
Oh, yes. Yours would be the second. I'm sorry.
Oh, my God.
We know what we're doing.
We're struggling right now. Anyways.
How are you guys in quarantine? Quarantine's probably over for quite a few people at this point.
I hope so. But anyways, we're still drinking our dandelion wine. We're going to clink those.
Chip, chip. Pip, pip, Cheerio. That's what it is. Chip, chip, Cheerio.
Chip, chip. I'm Amanda.
I'm Ashley. In case you forgot.
This week, I am going to be talking about the Tromp family.
Not the Trump family.
Yes,
Tromp.
With an O. And they live in Australia.
Ooh, I love Australia stories. There's some really good Australia stories.
I think it's absolutely crazy how Australia came to be.
Yes.
We're just going to ship all the prisoners here and they make their own society.
Now it's one of the most beautiful places in the world.
And now it's just okay. We're just like...
Right. Everything's fine. It worked out.
That's how it was made, you know. I don't know if this map's going to show everything we need to see, but hopefully it'll show something. Like, everything's like right in this... southeastern area of...
Like Sydney, Melbourne.
Yeah.
Adelaide. I have a friend that lives in Adelaide.
I have no idea, like, the contrast of size between Australia and America. Like, I have no idea.
Let's look up a map of it overlaid over the United States. That way we can compare our tiny little Ohio to
U.S.
The grand.
Because, like, I really don't know if, like, driving through Australia is equivalent to driving through Texas. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Or, like, trying to drive through Alaska, which is the biggest state.
Okay, this is a pretty good map. I say they're fairly the same size.
Yeah.
Yeah, if not even bigger, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. Back to brass tacks.
So, yes. So, this is, this actually took place fairly recently, which, like, it's always awesome when we have a story that's...
recent and current.
Yeah, it took place in 2016. So, only 4 years ago.
Wow. I see, like, in my mind, 2016 is, like, yesterday still. Like, I can't believe that was 4 years ago. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I told him in, like, 2004. I'm like, oh, that's 6 years ago.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago.
So, a seemingly normal family consisting of Mark and Jacoba were the parents. And they had 3 children, Rihanna, Mitchell, and Ella. They're all in their 20s. Decided to abandon everything and embark on a very strange road trip from their home in Sylvan, Victoria. So let's see. I don't know if this map shows us where Sylvan is, but it's like somewhere around here.
Victoria's right here. So they were somewhere in here.
Yeah. Okay. So they're like very like southeast.
Close to Melbourne.
And they owned a farm, and all these kids are like adults, which is normal to have like your kids live on the farm for a while because they need help, whatever. But they experienced an event of shared psychosis that had tons of interesting theories around it. I know absolutely nothing about Australian geography, so don't come for me.
Yeah, we're trying our best.
I particularly like this theory, or the story, because I'm a fan of shared hysteria.
What is that called? It's got a name.
Oh, I think so.
It's called the Madness of Two or something like that. Anyway.
Oh, I think I come
you probably say it, yeah.
So, my favorite one is the French dancing plague. It was like, took place way, way before like France was even France. But it was, like, geography, like, where France is today. Yeah. So I don't know how true it is. But these people had a big bout of shared psychosis where they would dance until they passed out or died. And then, like, up to, like, 400 people gathered, and people just danced and, this, like, moshed until they died.
France is fucking wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's the same thing with, like, you know, the quarantine that happened, and people were, like, spam buying toilet paper.
You know what, yeah.
There's no reason...
It's like pack mentality.
Right. There's no reason you need to buy toilet paper. It's manufactured in the U.S. We're not going to fucking run out.
Right.
But you see someone else buying it, and you think you're not going to get any, or not going to get enough, and then so you do it too. It's shared psychosis. Yep. It comes in very many different forms. The one, specifically to my story, is characterized as a shared delusion among 2 or more people in a close relationship. Typically between 2 people... this happens, but in rare cases it can be between groups. There's a primary inducer that influences the others, and the others being the secondary inducers. This, I would assume, would be how cults would be run.
Yeah.
You know, you have that one main guy, and then everyone else follows them. This started on August 29th. The family ditched all of their credit cards and personal items, including phones, and they piled into their car and started to drive to wherever the fuck. Yeah. I did a lot of digging, and I couldn't find why the police were prompted to search the family's home. Like, they never really concluded it, but I have a theory about that as well.
Okay. We love a good theory.
Yes. They lived on a farm that they all kept together, and farms are pretty big, so I think at least it would have taken a minute for people to know that they're missing. So it's not like their neighbors would have known that they just drove off.
It might not have been like a welfare check or something like that.
Right.
Okay.
I get to that, but basically they packed up and left.
Okay.
Some of the things the police found at the farm were the house unlocked, passports, phones, bank cards, and other family members' cars with the keys in the ignitions. But they had only taken the one SUV with all of them packed inside. And the police were there, if I remember correctly, it was the next day.
That is fucking spooky.
Right. So they left, and the next day police show up. All kinds of important documents were stacked around the house as if someone had been looking for something. Like, it was very, like, neat and organized.
Yeah.
By the time the police noticed the family had abandoned everything, they were already hundreds of kilometers away.
Wow.
During the first day, about 32 kilometers into the trip, so this is before the police showed up, it was the same day, 32 kilometers into the trip, Mitchell's phone was thrown from the car. It is speculated that he was not involved in the delusion and had snuck his phone into the car, and his family caught him using it and made him dispose of it out of fear of being tracked. So I think, and they get to that, and they interview Mitchell later, and he's like, you know, I didn't want them to go by themselves. I was scared. I didn't know where they were going, so he just kind of went with them.
So he thought he may be able to protect them, or...
Right. So I think he called the cops. I think he messaged a friend or said something like, hey, I don't know if family's doing, like, call the cops. Whatever. And that's why the cops came the next day.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. So, but they never said that. That's just a theory of mine. On the same day, this is the 30th. Abandoned the trip, or the family abandoned the trip in Bathurst and began his way back home. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I have not looked at this for like a month. All right.
So did he leave them? Is that what it's saying?
We're just going to start that over again. I still said it wrong. Okay.
That was us rewinding.
On the same day, this is the same day they left, Mitchell abandoned the trip in Bathurst and began his way back home. So I don't know if this map shows us where Bathurst is, but it's like a little bit more north.
Okay, just a little bit further.
His sisters also abandoned their parents, but not until the family reached the Genolian Caves, where they stole a car. The two sisters stole a car and drove back to South Goulburn and then went their own separate ways.
What?
At this point, I don't know if both the sisters were still in a state of psychosis.
It sounds like the kids maybe weren't 100% in that state all of the time.
I totally feel like Mitchell was not part of the delusion, but the sisters definitely were.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if they were still in a state of psychosis, but I feel my theory is that the father instructed them to do this in an attempt to throw whoever was after them off of their trail.
Okay.
Because obviously they felt like they were being followed or someone was tracking them.
Yeah.
So I feel like Dad was like, okay, you guys go this way, me and your mom will go this way. Ella, who was one of the sisters, continued to drive by herself to Sylvian towards home, where Brianna was found in the backseat of a stranger's car. So the one sister...
So they split up.
Right, so they ended up splitting up as well in the same town. Ella went her own way, driving somewhere else in this stolen car. Well, the other sister was kind of like wedged in the back seat. The driver did not... The witness says he didn't even know she was back there until he felt a kick to the back of the seat. She was reported to be in a catatonic state. She was given medical treatment due to stress-related issues, whatever that means. And Jacoba and Mark were reported missing that afternoon, so the police waited at the house when Ella arrived home that evening. So Ella was the one that stole the car.
Yeah.
She drove it straight home.
So weird.
Mitchell is still walking.
Oh,
he
poor
didn't
guy.
have a car. So Ella drove back home. Rihanna's like in this
catatonic, stress-induced catatonic state.
Why do I keep calling him Mark? Mitchell's still walking home, and Mark's the dad. And Mark and Jacoba are still going who knows where in their own car. On Wednesday the 31st, this is the next day, Mitchell arrived home having caught an overnight train from Sydney. By this day, Jacoba and Mark had made it all the way to Wangaratta, whatever that is. That's like more up here, like
Okay.
north a little bit more in this area. So they're a good distance from home. I would say it's probably the equivalent to like me being from Akron and being in like Kentucky almost.
Like Cincinnati, borderline Kentucky.
Yeah, like
okay.
so they're just driving.
They're really far.
And this is just the next day, maybe even further than that. Mark remained behind in Wangaratta while Jacoba went north to Yass on public transport. I don't know where these places are.
This is wild.
I looked up a map, but these are like towns away, like major cities
really
away.
far.
Right.
Yeah.
That evening, a couple reported a strange incident of being tailgated by a man in a station wagon, which is the same car that the family took, so it was just Mark driving it. When the couple pulled over, the man got out of his car and sprinted towards their car, stopped in the middle of the road, and then turned and walked into the forest.
Demons. There are demons involved in this story.
I would shit myself if that happened.
Oh my god, I would never drive again.
Like, if you've been chased by something,
so scary.
if you've been chased by a friend jokingly, like,
Right.
that fight or flight kicks in. Like,
And
like,
even not being chased, like, him turning abruptly and running into the forest, like, I can't. I love this wine, can you tell? That's so scary for him to, like, Quinn and I were just in West Virginia, and we were driving to our cabin, and we were going through the hill, like, if anybody's been in West Virginia, hills. And we heard this sound like a woman wailing. It turned out to be an ambulance screaming, but I genuinely feared for my life.
Yeah.
Like, being in the forest and, like, seeing something, I cannot imagine.
I watched a video of a husky yelling, like, screaming, and I was like, yeah, I know it's a husky screaming, but if I heard that in the woods, I would freak out.
It was horrific. I looked at him and I was like, I'm so sorry I brought you here. Like, I genuinely thought our life was over. It was so scary.
So this was after Mark ran to the forest. The next day, on the 1st of September, Jacoba was admitted into a hospital after being seen wandering around the streets of Yass in an agitated state. So I would say that's equivalent.
I'd be fucking agitated too.
I would say that's the equivalent of like a homeless woman like screaming at people.
Yeah, maybe like one of those crackheads at Circle K.
If she was wandering the streets in an agitated state, I'm sure someone called the police being like, this woman's being crazy, you know?
Yeah.
So the hospital monitored her as mentally not of good standard. This same day, Mitchell told the news that his parents were afraid of something he didn't know, and they decided to flee. He has never seen them act like that before. Another day goes by, nothing happens. Then on the 3rd, Mark was seen running around the outskirts of Wangaratta, which is the same place he was found running into the woods. He hadn't moved town since Jacoba parted ways. He was picked up by authorities and released to a relative to drive him back home. While passing media, he gave them the middle finger.
Good for him.
A week later, he released a statement saying he apologizes for the confusion and concern that he caused, and that was it.
Oh.
So, of course, like, local authorities and, like, police and the media is probably like, where are these people? Why are they running away? What's going on? And they're just like...
Why are they causing a ruckus in every town they go to?
Yeah, they're just like, shoulder shrug, I don't know, you know? So, only the children gave, like, actual statements. The parents never said anything. Ella says Ella's the one that stole the car. Ella says she wasn't in a good state of mind, and she can't explain why they acted the way they did. Mitchell says he never shared the same sense of danger as the rest of his family, but he had joined them to see where they were going, and he said he couldn't just let them go. Yeah. They've kept a low profile since then and have returned to their normal lives, and that's it.
That is wild.
So now they just run the farm like usual, like randomly, like there's no explanation.
And they're not, here's what I want to know, is are they being treated for mental illness? Because they absolutely should be.
I don't think so, but have you ever heard those stories about, like, you know, back in the old days when the wheat would go bad and people would eat it and they would go crazy? That's a theory. Like, people theorize that maybe there's something in the water, something in their food, because they were a family and they're all eating it. That maybe that had contributed to some kind of psychosis. And
maybe, what was the son's name? What was his name? Mitchell. Maybe his body was, like, immune to it, or he didn't eat as much of it.
Exactly. And, you know, they're all tripping balls at the same time, and then one of them was like, we have to fucking leave!
Oh my god.
Get out of here!
Right, especially if there's no, like, I was going to try to correlate to maybe, like, they're involved with the occult or something like that, but there isn't really a history of that, so maybe it's not a spiritual thing. Wow.
There is nothing leading up to them ever doing that, and they totally ignore that it even happened, and they're just going on with their regular lives.
But you know what? I want to say this isn't the first time I've heard a story similar to that, and it still blows my mind. Like, I don't, and it's probably because I'm not 100% mentally compromised that I don't understand it.
Well, I'm totally convinced that these people were mentally healthy. I depict them as regular, good old mom and dad.
So you don't think it's like a depression or a schizophrenia or anything like that?
Not at all. I really don't think that they have any mental illnesses. I think they ingested something or something happened and they all just kind of fed into it, except for Mitchell, and, went on. Or if you want to believe in aliens is also a theory, I guess.
Yeah, aliens or maybe,
if we're pulling the whole Ryan Bergara theory.
Or I don't know a whole lot about, like, obviously I know a lot about stories of cryptids in, like, America because I live here. I don't know a whole lot about Australian cryptids. Maybe there's, like, a Mothman where they lived and he was affecting their psyche.
I felt someone poked you with a needle.
Oh. We will cover alien abduction stories at some point because I love those stories.
Have you ever seen the Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind?
No, but I really should.
Oh my god, that one is so good. It's like that, like, Blair Witch kind of interview type.
I've never actually seen the Blair Witch.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
Blair Witch is not good.
Okay.
Blair Witch is not good. But Blair Witch and, like, the Cloverfield movies, like, filmed.
Okay, I've seen the Cloverfield. Yeah, so like a documentary type deal. Yeah.
Right, but
collected video or whatever.
And it makes you feel sick because it's like shaking cameras and you can't tell what's going on. That's not how Close Encounters is.
Okay.
It's almost like, the main character, the woman, she's a therapist. And she works in Australia, one of the most isolated places. Not Australia. Fuck. She works in Alaska. One of the most isolated places in Alaska.
Okay.
And she's a therapist and she records all of her sessions. And these people keep coming and saying that they've seen the same things. Ooh. And then... But there's also theories behind the fact that she's just crazy because it results in her daughter getting abducted. Okay. Spoilers. So, it's so good. So, like, all of the film, like the real film, are like videos of her being interviewed. It's none of that shaky camera shit.
Okay.
It's really good.
It's like a good fake documentary.
I don't know if the footage is real or not. I feel like some of it's real because the actor who portrays her doesn't look like the woman that is in the interview film.
Ooh, I like this. Mm-hmm. Okay, might be watching that soon.
Yeah, okay. All right.
That, I can't... Wow. Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts. It reminds me of something like the Bryce Laspisa case, or have you heard about the Madison Bell case? The girl from Ohio that recently went missing of her own accord?
Wait, the one, like, a couple weeks ago that went
yes.
missing? Yeah.
And they found her, and she said, I went missing of my own accord. I'm starting a new life. Leave me alone. And they did not disclose her location.
Wait, the girl that, she's like 16 or 18, and they found
her car. She was 18, I think.
Her car
at the church parking lot, yes. And she said, I went missing of my own accord. Leave me alone. And because she's 18, they don't have to. Oh my God. Yes, they found her.
I thought she got abducted.
I really did too. And then they found her. And you always kind of want to hope that they just went missing of their own accord or they ran away. And this was one of those cases where she did.
Right. Well, I thought for sure if she ran away, she would have taken her car with her.
Right. But she wanted to start a whole new life. And that's what.
But the scene that she left of her car keys were still in the car makes it feel like
she was abducted.
Someone snatched her up. Yeah.
Right. And so, we won't talk about how I feel about that. But if you try and start a new life, maybe don't make it look like you were taken. Anyway.
Right. Leave it up for your parents being like, hey.
Your parents and taxpayers' money and, like, search hours, man hours, like, don't waste that. If you're going, just go.
Right. Just say, hey, I feel like moving away. Sorry, this is disappointing to you, but at least you know where I am. Bye.
Right. Bye. And then you save extra heartache that was not necessary of them thinking you might be dead.
Oh my God, yes.
And anyway, I could go. Maybe we'll cover that at some point.
Like that maternal instinct of ever thinking that my child was abducted. Who was it? That one woman who just did that movie Abducted or whatever. What's her name? Halle Berry.
Yeah.
Halle Berry, yes. I watched the previews for that movie and I was like, I could not watch this movie. Mm-mm. I could not imagine having to chase down a car that just stole my child.
I'm not a mother, but I do care for Haley, my niece, and I will dream. I dream now where when she's staying with my mom and she's not at the apartment, I will dream that I hear her waking me up, like her saying, "Aunt Ashley," and I'll wake up like sit straight up in bed. Like, I cannot imagine fearing where she was.
Yeah.
Not knowing where I can't handle it.
There was one time I used to live with my grandma, and she babysat a lot of my younger cousins, like one of my oldest cousins. So I've seen all of them grow up from babies and everything. And right now, the two, they're like 11 and 5 right now.
Oh, babies.
But, we used to have like a mentally ill neighbor, and he would have freakouts every once in a while. Well, I woke up one morning and I heard like this screaming and retching, and in a sleep-like state, I woke up and I thought it was
your cousin.
My cousin. I thought it was my cousin. I thought she was vomiting or screaming and was in pain.
Right.
And my adrenaline, like, I jumped out of that bed so fast.
Instant.
And my adrenaline was pumping so hard. And I ran out the stairs and I was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And they're like,
Instant.
nothing. They're like, nothing's wrong. Relax. And I'm like, I was ready. I don't know what I was ready to do, but I was ready.
You were just ready.
Yeah.
You were ready. It's that maternal instinct.
Yeah.
It's that care for you instinct. So I just don't. There's so many weird things in this world, like spiritually and physically, people dealing with mental illnesses and like the actual magnetic pulls of the earth that change people. I don't know what caused this. Obviously, no one does. But it just baffles me. I've never had to deal with something like that. It kind of reminds me of like the Yuba County 5 guys, where they just like went missing of their own accord for no reason, and nobody understands.
Also been an insight of shared psychosis.
That's when you were telling that story. Like, that's what I was kind of thinking. Like, one of them, what was his name? Gary, the Gare Bear, I think is what I called him. And they just were all kind of in a place where they were able to sympathize with that. He could have
been the primary inducer, and they were the secondary inducers.
Right, and
especially if they weren't mentally totally there.
Exactly, and it just, if you're compromised in any way, even if you don't struggle with mental illness, if you're compromised in any way, you get sucked in. I don't know. I've never had to deal with it, so maybe that's why I don't understand it, but it blows my mind.
I can think of one time my paranoia got really bad is at my old job. Like, when I was younger, I had really bad anxiety, but whatever. Like, I maintained it, and it was fine. Well, for some reason, I would, my old work, I take care of elderly people. This guy...
I remember when you were working through that.
I'm not going to, for, like, personal reasons and, like, information reasons, I'm not going to say, but he was the owner of a siding company.
Okay.
And had a lot of money. But he's obviously retired now because he's old, so it's him and his wife. And I was just there to make sure that they were good overnight. They had a mansion up in Bath. Like, it was beautiful. And I kept thinking, I was like, someone could be living in their basement and no one would know. And, like, I just kept thinking about it. And the one night I was there and I would, they had such a big master bedroom that the wife would sleep in the bed. He slept in his own room. And then I would sleep on a couch in their bedroom. Like, they had a full couch in their bedroom.
And I want to see this house that's not far from where I live.
It probably didn't help that it was all mirrors. Like, their whole hallway was just mirrors. Oh my god, it's awful.
That's like Versailles. Oh my god.
It was terrible. Like, their whole house is mirrors. There's one night I kept thinking, I kept hearing, like, sounds coming from the fireplace. And in my, 3 a.m. paranoid state, I kept thinking, I was like, what if it's not the fireplace? What if it's someone walking around out there? And they had bedrooms upon bedrooms.
You'd never know.
And
until it was too late.
I went and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start the first bedroom, and I'm checking all these bedrooms. I'm looking under all the beds. I'm looking in all the closets. There's no reason rationally that I should have been doing that. But I was shaking. And I had...
You would convince yourself.
And I had my client's cane in my hand, and my knees were shaking, and I was this close to calling the police. And I was Mitch remembers the text I was sending him. Like, I know I'm just freaking out, but I can't help but think that there's someone here. And I don't remember what ended up happening. I think I just ended up I stayed awake in the other spare room watching TV until my shift was over. But the whole time every little sound I heard, I was like, "That's them. They're here. Like, they're here."
Yeah.
And it was such an awful experience. And I guarantee if there was someone else there who was like, "Yes, there's someone here," I would have been gone.
Yeah.
I would have been gone. I would have called the police. Everything.
But you know what? That does make sense to me, and maybe I have experienced it in, like, a much smaller quantity than that. Like, do you remember when you were in middle school and you, like, pretended to do seances, or you pretended that, like, your house was haunted, and somebody would say, "Oh my god, did you hear that?" And then all of a sudden you start to hear things. Yeah. And so if your walls are down, maybe it is easy to, I mean, they say that the human mind is the most powerful force, so you can literally create things out of nothing.
I do not believe in Ouija boards.
Oh.
I don't believe in pendulums. I have a pendulum. I don't believe in them. I feel like yes, some things can possibly contact you through your subconscious, but ultimately the reason the planchette moves and the reason the pendulum moves,
it's your own personal energy.
It's your subconscious. Yeah. You're doing micro movements, or you're not realizing that those movements are yours, that are creating these answers that you want to hear. Like, that's why people are like, oh, I did a Ouija board and it said my grandpa's name. How would it know that? It's like, it didn't know that. You knew that. And that's what it spelled out, is because that's what you wanted to hear.
And honestly, if you think about it, that is scarier than a spirit contacting you, because a spirit contacting you kind of makes sense. Like, it makes sense that, like, that's what you want to happen, and so that's what happens. But you subconsciously doing something that you quite literally have no control over or no recognition of is much scarier.
I don't think it's scarier. I think it's interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah. It was interesting, but I think, like, the ability that people have without realizing it, like, being able to completely just all of a sudden leave their home.
Yeah, the confidence, you know, you were...
Yeah.
There was a guy, like, crossing this really high, like, bridge. It was, like, a sky trick or whatever, and you hook up to a harness. Well, he jumped across this bridge like it was no big deal, and he got to the other side and realized his harness wasn't even hooked up.
Yeah.
If he would have known his harness wasn't hooked up from the
he wouldn't have been able to do it.
He wouldn't have made it.
No.
He would not have made it.
The human psyche is insane. I wonder what possessed the Tromp family. I want to know what was wrong with them, but I don't think they even know. I think it was something like when you were in that mansion with your clients, where you just got this tick and they ran with it, and maybe they were more emotionally or mentally compromised than you were at the time, and it just... They fed off each other, and they had to go.
I was taking care of a woman with dementia who would get up randomly in the night. I was taking care of an older man who could hardly move on his own. And I was more so worried about having to fight someone off for 3 people.
To protect them, yeah.
For 3 people having to fight somebody off is what I was terrified of.
Rather than, like, one of them falling and having to pick them up at night, which is what probably most people would worry about in a normal situation.
Right.
Wow. That was good. I liked that. I like talking about, like, those missing people, or, like, the voluntarily missing is what they're called. Like, I like trying to figure that out, because I think a lot of people run to, like, and even me, like, when I was listening to that story, I was like, occult, demons.
Yeah.
But it 9 times out of 10 can be explained with, like, the human psyche is just really weird.
I think in today's society, people also forget that you can literally do whatever you want. Nothing is stopping you.
It's a very thin line that keeps people in check. And it's usually morals or a culture set to them by, you're so good to me, you're trying to get me drunk. It's usually morals or a culture set to them by where they grew up, you know, their family or the country that they live in. I watched Apocalypse Now. Have you ever seen that movie? It's supposed to be like, I didn't watch it until last night, but it's a lot of people's favorites. Marlon Brando is in it. Marlon Brando, he's the Godfather. I was watching it, and it's about the Vietnam War, but it's more specifically about the breakdown of the human psyche and how people are literally only not killing one another for survival because their morals tell them to, like the morals we eventually set into code and the culture we set into code, like,
right.
But that it's brave for you to be able to be that emotionless in that moment when you need to be. I don't know. It's just
that nature versus nurture. When people think like, oh, are babies born inherently a blank slate, or
are they born evil?
I think that can go the other way too. I think people are typically more good, but they can be nurtured into being evil.
Yeah, I think it is. I genuinely think it's human nature to be, you know, sane and upright, and, you know, you want to live your life in a good way, no matter what that looks like for you. But I do think that the
fight or flight kicks in.
It's very fragile. It's a switch.
And it's also like the intelligence factor. It's like, you know, are you sane enough in the moment to think if we work together as a team we could survive? Or has your animal instinct kicked in and told you fight or flight, it's you or nobody? You know?
Yeah. And that's scary because, like, at any moment, somebody else could end you because they think their survival depends on it. Mm-hmm. And if they really, truly are in that state, it's going to be very easy for them to do it.
It could be someone you thought was your best friend. It could be your mom. And as soon as they realize it's me or them, they're going to pick themselves ultimately. And if they have, I feel like if they're human enough and they have that intelligence to realize, you know, maybe I'm a little too old, or, you know, Hunger Games is the second Hunger Games.
When that old woman gives herself up.
She sacrifices herself because she knows
she's going to weigh him down.
I'm going to weigh you down. I'm going to die soon anyways. She's reached that point of intelligence that she is, knows what's better in the bigger picture.
Right.
I feel like a lot of younger people definitely have that it's me or no one else mentality.
Exactly. And I think that kind of ties back to maybe what Mitchell was dealing with. Like, he was still holding on to his culture. Like, I need to see that they're okay. He hadn't completely given up and said, you know what, I gotta protect myself. Mm-hmm. Whereas it seems like even though they all went together, their family was out for just their individual selves.
He thought they're just going on a long road trip. It's harmless. Let me just see where they're going.
I want to make sure they're okay.
And that they're not trying to hurt themselves.
Right.
Because he wasn't in danger.
Right.
They were.
He was not in the space that they were in. And that's why they split up. And he necessarily didn't of his own accord. Like, they split up of their own accord. The sisters split up. The parents split up from the sisters. And then the parents split up from each other.
Right.
Because they, in the end, felt they needed to protect themselves.
Right. I totally agree.
Wow. That's a lot. Mental health is a real thing, guys.
It is, yeah.
It's scary.
And breaking your psyche and thinking you're being hunted on people is the same as breaking your leg.
And yes, it absolutely is. Yeah. And just, like, sometimes talking about this scares me because I know that I have mental illness that I deal with, and most people do. Like, I would say 99% of people deal with some form of mental illness.
And that's okay.
And that's 100% okay, but it is very scary and it's very serious. You need to take care of it because even somebody who is completely mentally sane, in the blink of an eye, could not be.
Yeah.
And you've got to protect yourself. So take it seriously if you feel that you're ill.
And certain mental illnesses can develop into other things. If you just have anxiety and you're like, oh, it's okay, sometimes
I can manage it.
It's like sometimes I just worry if I lock my car, so I lock it twice. That's okay.
Right.
But then it branches off into, deeper things, and then it branches off into depression, and then you have depression and anxiety, and then it branches off into you being paranoid, and it branches off into you thinking that none of your friends like you, and it can destroy you.
It's slow creeping, and then all of a sudden when you finally realize it, it's too late. So evaluate yourself and never think that you're crazy, because even if you clinically are, it's fine and you're normal. Because this is a normal thing that can happen to people. Your brain's an organ and it can get diseased just like any other organ in your body.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what probably happened to the Tromp family, but I'm glad they all lived. I'm glad they're all fine, and I hope they're doing a whole lot better, and I really hope they're going to therapy.
Yeah, that's just one of those stories that I heard and couldn't forget about.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting.
Those are the really good ones.
Yeah. All right, well, I think that's a good place to stop.
Yep, good episodes.
You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbean,
Stitcher, Anchor, anywhere you can find your podcast. I've tried to make sure that we're on there. If there's something that you listen to and you're like, I really like listening to this feed and you're not on it, let us know. I'll try to make sure that we have to do is redirect the RSS feed. So I will make sure we're on there for you. We're on...
I don't know what that means.
It's okay. That's what I'm here for. I had to do a lot of research for this.
Ashley puts in so much work.
We're on Twitter, CITC Podcasts. We're on Instagram at Crime in the Coconut. Our Gmail is crimeinthecoconut@gmail.com. Talk to us on any of those platforms. Send us stories. Experiences, anything, personal opinions, or more information that maybe we didn't include in a story we covered. We love that. So, yeah, just be our friends. Talk to us. Thank you for always coming back and listening.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye.